You're entering Corsi Nation.
This is Jerome Corsi. Today it's Wednesday. It's June 18th, 2025. Thank you for joining us on CorsiNation.com. We're doing podcasts every weekday. You can find me on X at CorsiJerome1 and on Substack, JeromeCorsiPhD.substack.com. We're doing more Substacks just about every day. Okay, I want to lead off with a couple of stories that I think are, first of all, I want to do Pelosi. We have a video of Pelosi that was taken evidently by her daughter. It was posted on X yesterday, and this is during the January 6th event. It's as January 6th event is going on, and her daughter evidently videoed it. And what you've got in this video, it's a TikTok video, and it shows, nobody's seen this until it was just posted, but it shows how really this was all a setup. Here they are in Nancy Pelosi's office. And it's during the January 6th. This is taken on January 6th. You can see how relaxed they are and how they're all planning it. And you've got, the Democratic inner circle here determining that they're going to set up Trump to be an insurrectionist as their great triumph as they've stolen the election in 2020. So let's play this a little bit.
Who's that?
They're watching television, obviously. And they say, who are they talking about? The police. No sense of urgency in this group at all. Look at how calm they all are.
I don't care what they say. They should have had much more anticipation about the National Guard.
That's what Nancy's saying. Much more anticipate. Now, she's in a car.
Yes, Drew.
Going to the opening, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, I'm going to put Henry on. Also in the room is Jamie Fleet and Terry and myself. And obviously Henry is going to go through the opening with you, okay? Putting on speaker.
They're rehearsing now what they're going to say.
Okay. All right, so I'm just going to start reading. Yesterday, the President of the United States incited an armed insurrection against America. The gleeful desecration of the U.S. Capitol, which is the temple of our American democracy, and the violence targeting Congress are horrors that will forever stain our nation's history.
She's driving around Washington.
Seditious act the president has committed.
You can see Washington out the window.
Against our nation and our people.
And it's January 6th, all the lockdown.
The Senate Democratic leader in calling on the vice president to remove this president by immediately invoking the 25th Amendment. If the vice president and cabinet do not act, the Congress will impeach the president once more. Justice will be done to those who carried out these acts, which were acts of sedition. To those who strove to deter us from our responsibility, you have failed. This assault did not divert the Congress from our solemn constitutional purpose to validate the overwhelming election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Despite the desecration of our Capitol, we upheld in front of the country and the world the bedrock principle.
Okay, this is like a movie script. This is, they've got it all scripted. They know what they're going to say. They're going to try to get the 25th Amendment invoked. So Pence has just refused to. You can stop playing it. This is, we've heard all this garbage before. Nancy Pelosi's driving around, and they've got all the word, the temple of our democracy, and desecrated, and sedition, and Trump needs to be removed by the 25th Amendment. Okay, now this is all crap. It's all complete lies. It's all total fabrication. It's the Democrats who stole the election. Okay, and now we're knowing that for much more certainty. God's Five Stones, if you go to God's Five Stones, we've shown you how all these algorithms are in these elections to permit mail-in ballot fraud. Our election rolls have millions and millions of fictitious names in them, which are there for a purpose, which is to use mail-in ballot schemes. And then we have John Solomon reporting. He reported it yesterday that Kash Patel has gone to Senator Grassley and delivered him what is really some pretty disturbing information, which is that Congress was given intel in 2020 that the Chinese had a plot to produce all these fake driver's licenses to get fake mail-in ballots in 2020. And they were actually discovered a whole bunch of them that were coming into the United States from China, these fake driver's licenses. And the Department of Justice at that time was reporting it to, wanted to report it, but the reports were quashed. The Department of Justice decided, no, we're not going to investigate that. Well, that was to set up the mail-in ballot fraud that we saw in 2020, when the scheme using the algorithms was that the counting continued after the election was over until they realized that they were missing in the 7 battleground states thousands of ballots short of Joe Biden winning. So all they did was print up all these duplicate fake ballots that were in the voter rolls, and you got mail-in ballots, and they ran them through the machines, and they said, look, it was a sudden surge for Biden and Kamala. No, it was no sudden surge. It was a Democratic theft of the election, and Mike Pence did nothing to stop it in Congress. He did not object to the certification of the election, which is what January 6th was all about. And this rent-a-mob, which was the police bussing in all of these people looking like they were J6ers, okay? And there's film of all this. In fact, the J6ers have been imprisoned for 4 years. Some of them are still in prison because the Department of Justice is fighting to get them out. But the states have rules where, for instance, if someone was found with a firearm or a later search of their home found an unregistered firearm, they're now in prison over that as a state issue. And President Trump's pardonability only reaches to federal crimes. Okay, now this is again, I want to play another clip, which is John Solomon, who's broken this story with Mike Benz, and they're discussing, in fact, what the 2020 election was really all about. And this is so important because this is the J6ers who have been suffering in prison. And now, in fact, they've gotten pardons, but they're not all completely admonished of these state charges. They're not all out of prison yet. And the cases are continuing. And we've also got Tina Peters as a political prisoner, and she remains in prison. So let's play this clip. It's a little bit long, and I'm going to stop it a couple times and comment on it. But let's just begin it. It's John Solomon's show, and Mike Pence is the host. Go ahead, Chris. Start playing it.
I'm shocked, and it takes a lot to shock me.
This is Mike Pence. Mike Pence speaking.
When this story first broke, I thought that there must be some details about it that are more speculative than you can
story about
rely
the
on.
Chinese.
But the more I read the piece that you published and saw what Cash submitted to Chuck Grassley, there are several levels of this that are concerning almost beyond belief. So obviously the first family itself was taking millions of dollars from China. The Biden first family through Hunter Biden and China CEFC Energy was taking $5 to $10 million in consulting fees from Chinese energy firms as Hunter Biden was flying on Air Force One to China with Vice President Biden in order to secure those deals. Biden's CIA director, Bill Burns, took millions of dollars from China when he was the head of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace for 7 years before becoming CIA director, taking CCP members and putting them on Carnegie's board, as well as forming a joint Carnegie-China center so that they could cooperate more closely. Tony Blinken, the Secretary of State, was the managing director of the Penn Biden Center, which took millions of dollars from China. So all the way up and down the entire foreign policy establishment of the Biden administration, from the White House to the CIA to the State Department, you had millions of dollars being juiced by the Chinese government the entire time. And then the more you think about this story, the more shocking it gets when you think about the massive, biggest election censorship event in human history, which was
stop it right there for a minute.
CISA's censorship.
Okay, so what he's saying is that the communist Chinese government had bought and paid for the Biden administration, the Biden family, their bribery schemes, and all through the foreign policy establishment. Blinken, the head of the CIA, they were all bought and paid by China. And so this is the run up to 2020. And China is interfering in our elections. They have a scheme to print these mail-in ballots from voters that don't exist, put on the rolls through fake driver's licenses that China's mass producing and shipping into the United States. And the scheme is all working. There's all the setup for why we saw the counting stopped and all these ballots coming in. And it sets the precedent for President Trump to issue another executive order, which he's going to do in August and September. We've been predicting this at gods5stones.com, which is G-O-D, no apostrophe for the S, F-I-V-E, you spell out 5, and S-T-O-N-E-S, gods5stones.com. And you can see where we've demonstrated that the election fraud in 2020 was mail-in ballot schemes, where thousands and thousands of mail-in ballots were printed up after the Democrats knew they'd lost the presidential election, but they stopped the counting in these 7 states. They didn't do it in 2024. 2024, the 7 states all reported on election night, and they reported for Donald Trump. They knew we would have caught them, and we were prepared to catch them. But they did use the algorithms in the down ballot elections, and they're preparing to do it to steal the 2026 midterm elections. The Democrats have had these algorithms since 2004 and 2007 in the state databases, and they've been packing Congress with criminal, treasonous Democrats, communist Democrats, that the people aren't electing, but the algorithms are. Now, what Pence is going to, what Benz, B-E-N-Z, Mike Benz is going to say next is that also the Obama administration had set up these disinformation units in DHS and CIA, and their purpose was to quash anybody like me who objected to the mail-in ballot fraud and pointed it out. They want to say, "Oh no, this is the most secure election in American history." So let's listen to this next little bit, and you see, in fact, how the intelligence agencies and the DHS worked to make sure that we were all lied to. That that Nancy Pelosi and her smirk little smile and all of her wealth, etc., together in the office with all of her little Democratic cronies, have this scripted event in which they, knew that Trump was going to, they knew that people were in Washington, they were going to come to the Capitol. The Capitol was really peaceful until, these agent provocateurs began opening the doors to the Capitol, inviting the crowd inside. Now they've got what they want. Even the filming of the crowd inside is peaceful. Okay, but again, they're saying, oh no, they were trying to have an insurrection to take over Congress to prevent the certification of the election by Mike Pence. But yet we certified the election. Now all these people are seditious and they have to go to prison. Listen to the disinformation campaign as Benz is describing it. So continue playing
the
that for a
2020
couple of
election, specifically to stop election misinformation, which was all run out of a group that Chris Krebs.
We're having a little bit of a problem with it freezing up.
I think would have been the exact task force at DHS set up to stop something like this and set up to be responsive to something like this, when in fact it did the exact opposite. They told us there was no foreign interference. Now, how does the FBI know this, and the CIA know this, and the DHS task force, who is responsible for stopping the domestic side of this operation, not be informed? How is it possible that this intelligence was circulated at the FBI and CIA levels, but not at the DHS level? And so that is an immediate question for Chris
by the
Krebs
Biden
and Alex
administration.
Stamos.
Well, we can actually answer the question for you, Mike, too. The document I actually saw the document and got some of the quotes from it. It was circulated to the Department of Homeland Security in addition to the CIA. So they were, now it doesn't say CISA, it does say DHS. So at least the senior component got it. And when it was called back, they asked all those agencies to destroy it. So it was sent out to Homeland.
And then destroyed.
Now get this. The DHS censorship operation run out of CISA, together with EIP, this 4-group consortium of 120 individual censors monitoring the entire internet across 15 different platforms to censor pro-Trump tweets or anyone who cast doubt on the integrity of the 2020 election. In the slide deck presentations of those censors who were set up by DHS, who got to use CISA's 24/7 cyber mission control to flag tweets, in those presentations, they specifically finger out a specific tweet by Donald Trump on June 22nd, and I'll read it. Rigged 2020 election. This is all caps. Rigged 2020 election. Millions of mail-in ballots will be printed by foreign countries and others. It will be the scandal of our times. Now, DHS's censorship network specifically cited that tweet as one of the reasons they needed to scramble to form this wide-spanning, totalizing censorship operation.
Okay, now stop there.
The fact
What he stop there. What we just now know is that the communist Chinese were penetrating the 2020 election, and they had to be doing it at the State Board of Election Office level in order to print these mail-in ballots. This was not in the Dominion machines. That was a separate event. This is in the State Board of Election. This is exactly what Andrew Paquette found. And now we got verification that the Chinese were the culprits of penetrating the election. So this sets up the predicate for Donald Trump to issue a proclamation as commander-in-chief under Article 2 of his powers to say this is a national security emergency. The national security emergency, Donald Trump can order the states to abandon their existing voter registration rolls because they're entirely corrupted. They've been corrupted by foreign agents and internal actors who have not done their job to be diligent to clean these rolls up. And even if the rolls were, if the duplicate names were removed, the algorithms are still there, could be done over again. So we can't use the entire system. We've got to go, Donald Trump is going to have to mandate that we go to voter ID to do new registrations for the 2026 election, that we have proof of citizenship. Bring in your birth certificate or bring in your passport. And we're going to have paper processes. We don't have time to do a blockchain or other more secure voting process. There are others we're going to have to do. But for the moment, we got to take it off of the computers because the computers are now rigged. And if the computers are rigged and they're used again, the Democrats will steal. Just like they did in 2020. Now, this evidence is massive and it's irrefutable. And what we've just gotten here on this memo that was suppressed and withdrawn from the FBI in 2020, the FBI knew the election in 2020 was rigged, and yet this counterintelligence unit lied, and the communist Chinese bought and paid for Biden and Blinken and all the others. Now, that's treason. These people have committed treason. Okay, so I'm saying the Democratic Party is going to come to an end. This is going to do it, and there's going to be more investigations that I'm predicting the Democratic Party by the 2026 election will no longer exist. This is the end of the Communist Democratic Party, which has now gone treasonous. And there need to be treason charges investigated, including Brennan, Clapper, and many others. Certainly Nancy Pelosi is at the top of the list. And her whole scripting of Donald Trump being the insurrectionist when they are the insurrectionists is damning evidence. What we're getting here today, to me, is completely shocking. It's a constitutional crisis, and Donald Trump now has everything he needs to act to change the entire voting system of the United States. And we're proud of gods5stones.com to have played a major role in exposing this scam, because we found the algorithms, we prevented them from being used in 2024. Okay, GODS, no apostrophe. You spell out 5, F-I-V-E, stones is plural, gods5stones.com. Or let's go to another story here, which I think is also important, extremely important. We have a report that came out of Iran yesterday, and the Iran state media was saying there's a terrifying warning about a, quote, surprise tonight that the world will remember for centuries. And they put it out with missiles being shown being displayed through the streets of Tehran in one of their parades. So it certainly sounded like Iran is saying that they've got a nuclear weapon and they're going to use it. And this is going to be the big deal bombshell report. Now, I think there's a couple things on this. Number one is I think if Iran had a nuclear weapon that they could deliver with a ballistic missile, they would have already done it. There's no reason they would have waited. So I don't think that they've got the ability to deliver on that threat. But who knows what they might do? They might have a weapon of some kind or other. They're going to seek to try to deliver one way or another into Tel Aviv. At any rate, you've got Donald Trump demanding unconditional surrender, saying Ayatollah Khamenei is an easy target. Well, as I pointed out in previous broadcasts, the Israel, Mossad, and the IDF have penetrated into the Iranian military, the Iranian government, pretty much the entire Iranian scientific community. And there's been a lot of assassinations going on. And there's no reason at this point, I think, that Ayatollah Khamenei should consider himself safe. If Ayatollah Khamenei is killed, I think this war comes pretty quickly to an end. I don't think the Iranian people want this war. And I think the mullahs are going to be hunted down like dogs. Certainly, the Iranian people are tired of them. And once the regime begins to crack in terms of its power, the whole house of cards of Iran is going to come collapsing down. Now, that does mean like a cornered animal, it's going to fight back. And if Iran has a weapon, it's going to use it. So I think the United States and Israel is going to take this very seriously and say, okay, with this kind of a threat, all the gloves are off. And now we're going for the destruction of the regime. I think we've largely suppressed their ability to have a functioning nuclear weapons program. I think they still need the bunker bombs in order to get these deep facilities in the mountains in Iran, nuclear facilities, destroyed. Otherwise, Iran is going to have to be invaded by Israel. There'll have to be ground troops to come in here and finish the job like Israel's doing right now in the Gaza. But this is an historical moment. And I've seen this coming since 2006 when I wrote Atomic Iran. And Chris, if we show the cover of Atomic Iran, I think it was one of the better books that I have written, and one of the ones that didn't get as much attention in 2006. People almost 20 years ago, 19 years ago, weren't ready for understanding the threat that Iran was going to be. I was trying to warn everybody at that time that Iran was deadly serious about developing a nuclear weapon, and that one nuclear weapon detonated over Tel Aviv, even a weapon of the size of Hiroshima or the Nagasaki bombs in World War II, would have destroyed the modern Jewish state as we know it. Israel's a one-bomb state. There's the cover of Atomic Iran. And it was the eyes and the terrorists had atomic nuclear mushroom clouds in them. It was one of the more brilliant covers that was designed. And the book was quite good and was widely read, especially in Israel. I saw it on many places. When I was in Israel, many of the top Israelis had this book and were reading it. And again, we're now just seeing a massive change in the Middle East, in that Israel has now destroyed Hamas in the Gaza. They're not done yet. It'll be tough to root them out because they've got these deep tunnels under the Gaza in which the terrorists hide out and live. Though Israel's going to have to destroy those tunnels. And if the Palestinians return to Gaza, they're just going to bring Hamas with them. We're going to do it all over again. But the terror masters and funders are the Iranians. And if the Iranians now have had their oil bombed, their oil facilities bombed, their revenue sources gone, the Iranian people are going to start starving and they're going to start freezing in the winter. This regime is over. And it may not yet recognize it, but the regime will be hunted down now, and the mullahs will be killed, not by the Israelis, by their own people. I certainly wouldn't want to be a mullah running around in Iran trying to hide today. These are the evil people who have oppressed the people of Iran now since the 1970s, when Ayatollah Khomeini returned from exile. He flew in from France and started this whole Iranian radical Islamic revolution in Iran, where they held our hostages for 444 days, and it was the end of the Jimmy Carter presidency. Jimmy Carter first welcomed the Ayatollah Khomeini, would not give any safe passage for the Shah of Iran. Jimmy Carter was a complete fool and one of the worst presidents we've ever had. Put on a cardigan and turned down his thermostat and told us all we were running out of oil. We'll never run out of oil. He thought it was a fossil fuel. There were only so many dinosaurs, so there could be only so much oil. That's how stupid Jimmy Carter was. Oil is a natural product of the earth. I've written books on this. My latest book on the truth about energy, global warming, and climate change makes it clear that abiotic oil is the truth. Oil is manufactured naturally in the mantle of the earth, and it upends into the sedimentary rock, where our genius petrogeologists think it was formed from rotting biological material and rock. I mean, that's as dumb as a squirrel, but that's what archaeologists have thought forever. I can't believe some of the stupid science that people get by people, because people don't fundamentally understand physical and chemical processes. And there's nothing magical about needing biological life in order to produce oil. Oil is not rotting Aunt Matilda, I can guarantee you. We don't line caskets with rubber because Aunt Matilda is going to turn into diesel number 2. It's never happened in the history of the world. Okay, dying material disintegrates into constituent chemicals. It doesn't advance into a higher form of energy. That would violate the second law of thermodynamics. But don't expect children in our schools being taught transgenderism and critical race theory to know anything about chemistry or biology or science or geography or anything else. All they know is that they think they're boys, but they're really girls, or girls, they're really boys, they're transgender. Now, if that's what our schools are about, let's close down the public schools and end the teachers union. Get your kids out of public schools now, or they will be coloring pride flags as as their school projects to put up on the walls of our communist anti-God classrooms called the public schools. Okay, so Iran, I think, is going to come to an end. I don't think we're going to have a nuclear war. And we're seeing also that Zelensky is about to be cut off with funds. Donald Trump left the G7 early. He was sick of the Europeans, probably as sick of them as I am. A bunch of whining sycophant, also rich on bribery and other schemes. I mean, Macron is not about to not have his expensive Bordeaux every night that he can drink with his male counterpart wife, who's older than him. Okay, so the corruption in Europe is massive. The EU corruption is being exposed. I don't think Zelensky is going to be able to continue his neo-Nazi war. And that the neo-Nazism was the cause of the war, sending in neo-Nazi brigades with neo-Nazi flags and symbols and all the rest into these 2 provinces that were Russian-speaking and persecuting Russian-speaking Ukrainians who wanted independence from Ukraine. And Zelensky is an actor. He's got his outfit is these fatigues. He wants you to think he's a military guy. He's an actor. He's a comic actor who's made himself billions of dollars by stealing it. And the Bidens were in on that too. The massive corruption we've had, the lying, the stealing, the cheating. I think this whole transgender globalism is about to come crashing down. And I pray to God it will. Okay, in the middle of all this, the economics remain fragile. Okay, because the world investors are seeing that the political turmoil is not settling to investors. And so you see the stock market, which has constantly been on a roller coaster. And I'm encouraging everybody again to go to Swiss America, because again, our sponsor, Swiss America, is able to get you a self-directed IRA where you can buy gold and silver. And if you do, gold is today at $3,387 an ounce, and silver is almost at $37 an ounce. Okay, these are dramatic increases in prices since I first talked about it. And Chris, we'll put up on the screen from our sponsors. I want to show people how they can get this free book. And not enough of you are getting this free book. It's free. And I don't know why you don't want to get it and read it and get up on what we're really doing in the economy, which is a global crash in the process. And it's going to create an historic gold rush. Gold is going to become, I think, the future of money, because we're going to have to go back to a gold standard to get out of these fiat currencies. The number is 1-800-519-6268, 1-800-519-6268. Call Swiss America and talk to them. You're foolish if you don't. They'll just educate yourself. And these counselors can help you. You don't have to have millions of dollars. But if you've got some assets right now, have some gold and silver, in order to have something of value that increases when your dollar purchasing power is evaporating as rapidly as it is, with the $37 trillion national debt that we're not going to be able to sustain. The United States has had now 2 downgrades of our national financial strength. Moody's just downgraded the United States of America. And the Senate yesterday passed a crypto bill on stable coins. And I think we're going to have to also see if there are cryptocurrency solutions to our financial crisis. That's coming too. We're into a new birthing of a of a new society, a new consciousness in human beings. And it's, praise God, not going to be transhumanism. We're not going to become superhuman by merging ourselves with computers. AI is not the salvation of the world. It may have certain positive functions, but it's not a God. There's only one God. And Jesus Christ has proclaimed on earth that the kingdom of God, which is the only utopia we're going to get, and it won't happen here. It'll happen when we're long gone from here. This place is not meant to be permanent. It's not meant to be perfect. Perfecting it is a human sickness every bit as much as anti-Semitism is a human sickness. It's a mental illness. This transhumanism, the left, the Democratic Party is not a liberal. It's not Hubert Humphrey's party anymore, or Jack Kennedy's. This is a party of Karl Marx and Mao that was communist and now has just gone completely transhuman, globalist, anti-American, treasonous, and has no reason to exist. I think we're going to continue following these stories. I expect that we're going to see in the next bit of time the war in Iran and the war in Ukraine come to a culmination. I think they're both entering end game, and it's only because of Donald Trump. If the Democrats were there, we'd already have had World War III. Kamala Harris had been president, we would have all been now in the aftermath of a thermonuclear war. Because with Biden and the French and the Italians and the French, the Germans, and the British, and us giving long-range missiles to fire into Russia, launched by our troops, guided by our guidance systems, the Bidens would have had us at war with Russia, and we were within hours of the decision being made to go to nuclear war. It was stopped because sober thinking came on and said Donald Trump's going to be here soon. And these demons of the Biden satanic faction of the Democratic Party, and the pedophilia is rampant. I have other stories I'm going to begin developing here very quickly that I think will put an end to the Democratic Party. We're getting God's Five Stones is now going into its second phase. We've proven that our state databases are riddled with duplicate false records in the millions. These databases have been corrupted beyond repair. That's proven. Now we're going General Flynn and Peter Tickton, President's attorney, have joined us, and we're going to go now into full-scale battle publicly to make the American people aware of just how serious this crime has been. Also, phase 3 is going to be an investigation into Act Blue, and that's coming. And that's going to be, you'll be hearing much more about that in the future. But God's Five Stones is going to become my investigative arm, where we are exposing truth and rooting out evil. And that's Republican evil as well as Democratic evil. I want to know why there's so many millionaires across the board in Congress, why they all go there and get rich. And then they don't do the people's business. They do their own bidding. The bureaucracy's got to be reduced. The legacy bureaucracy is there working for itself, not for the American people. In the end, God always wins. God's going to win here too. This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. Thank you for joining us on CorsiNation.com. We're going to be evolving this program. We're in discussions. There's a new network being formed, and we're thinking of transforming this program into a new faith-based network that's emerging. In the end, God always wins. 2 Chronicles 7:14. We need to get on our knees and ask God to forgive us for letting the world get to this point, where so many babies have been murdered after Roe v. Wade by abortionists. We have no right to take away those lives. Only God gives life. Only God should take it away. We've had God taken out of our schools, our homes, our marriages. We've got to put God back at the heart of our lives. As feminism is producing a situation where now I think 80% of all the divorces are being caused by women in long-term marriages. It's shocking what's going on to the traditional family. But this can be restored if we come back to God. Dr. Jerome Corsi, thank you for joining us at CorsiNation.com. We'll be back every weekday. We'll be back tomorrow. God bless.